Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios. This is episode number 92 of the UCF Knightline podcast. And joining me as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. Happy Bowl Week.
It is almost Bowl Week. It is.
We can kick it off right now.
I guess Sunday starts the week for most people.
Bolando.
So, you know, that's interesting.
That hasn't caught on yet?
No.
And,
you know, I find that it's interesting for Orlando to be, you know, having this Bowl-lando thing because, you know, in the state of Florida, they just recently passed medical marijuana. Yeah. Bowl-lando. There it is right there. Yeah. So I think they stole that whole hashtag thing, and I don't think they should use it because I think that should mean, you know, the medical marijuana, Bowl-lando.
I had no idea that connection could be made.
I think that's much more appropriate. Anyway, I would like to thank my friend Glenn for giving me that. I said when he said that I was going to steal it, and there it is.
You've credited the theft.
Glenn, that is for you if you're listening.
Anyway.
So there's news a little bit today.
Yes, there is.
It doesn't involve
Sunday.
UCF directly, but
it kind of
does, yes. Charlie Strong, the new head coach at USF.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Inks a 5-year deal according to ESPN.com, which is interesting, right? 5-year deal with the Cows. Athletic director Mark Harlan quoted as saying, Charlie is a tremendous leader and mentor for our student athletes and a widely respected coach with a resume full of achievements at the highest levels of college football. That does not include Texas losing to Kansas, your alma mater. That's not in there.
You can thank us for firing him, I guess. But
he might have been done for, but that
I'm
definitely
sure he was.
Continuing the quote, he combines a drive to win with great integrity and deep, long-standing connections in the state of Florida, which I think prompts the question, what is the impact that you see, that our listeners see, to his hire over in Tampa?
Well, I think, and this is what I was thinking about while you were saying that, is his recruiting ability is very, very good. I know that from his time at Louisville. Not so much. I mean, we don't know what he really would have done as far as recruiting in Texas because he wasn't there that long. How many years do you know?
Three, right? I mean, he didn't have a great deal of success.
I don't think it was time for him to get his whole thing, you know, in place there. So we don't know what he could have done there with more years, but I know that I think a lot of players, you know, high school players and stuff will be excited that he's in Tampa, unfortunately.
High-profile hire to replace Willie Taggart, who goes to Oregon, and here we think within the last just couple of weeks it was UCF's own Scott Frost, possibly rumored to be going to Oregon, and it's Willie Taggart who ends up with the Ducks.
Yeah, I wonder what Scott Frost thinks about that. Like, I hope somebody will ask him that. Maybe, you know, this week somebody will ask him at a press conference or something and see what he thinks about, you know, Willie Taggart after he just, you know, played a game against Willie Taggart, and there may have been some words exchanged, you know, in the handshake phase of the whole thing. There may not have, not sure. So for him to take over a program that he was so close to, I find that kind of interesting.
It is interesting how it's all gone full circle there.
It is.
Through Oregon. I don't know. You know, recruiting is tough in the state of Florida. Recruiting is tough for UCF, and Scott Frost and his team that he has assembled are, you know, they're out there recruiting now. Is Charlie Strong stronger than Willie Taggart in those head-to-head battles? It's not as if, though, UCF is out recruiting or in that same neighborhood with Florida State, right? So those are direct head-to-head competition, as well as the American Athletic Conference schools and maybe some of your lower-tiered Power 5 schools. I don't see how it changes the equation for UCF.
I think he has much more of a resume than Charlie Taggart or whatever his name is. Willie Taggart. Willie, Charlie, whatever. That's how much it really matters to me as far as he goes. I think that Charlie Strong has a much more name that people know, especially from the Louisville years. I mean, he did an incredible job up there, even though UCF beat Louisville, the Fiesta Bowl magical season.
Yes.
But we'll see. I mean, I think, yes, I do believe that he's going to recruit better than Willie Taggart did. Absolutely. Because
but
of the
it's still up
household
for
name.
UCF to do its job and
Absolutely,
make those connections
yeah.
and make those relationships across the state. And that's something that Scott Frost and his team doubled down on, really, from the George O'Leary era, with really trying to put a fence around Orlando and really trying to recruit the state of Florida stronger than George O'Leary had.
If you look at the American in general, with the coaches that are coming in and out of the American, especially, some of the ones going out of the American, just... I think that you're going to see some of those higher-tiered coaches, which I would,
I would Charlie Strong in that.
Charlie Strong, yes, absolutely. I think that it's going to make the whole thing of the American and the Power Six thing, I think it's going to make it even more valid. So, we shall see.
In just the last week, right, they've lost several high-profile coaches, but not to lower-tier jobs.
No.
To upper-tier jobs.
Not at all lower-tier jobs.
I mean, so some of those include, we know Houston lost Tom Herman to Texas. Of course, that's where Charlie Strong's coming from, to Tampa. And then they, instead of hiring Lane Kiffin, they promoted from within. Their offensive coordinator, Major Applewhite, who's a name in college football. Tommy Tuberville stepped down from Cincinnati, and the Bearcats snagged Luke Fickell from Ohio State, defensive coordinator. By the way, he won 2 national titles, so
right.
he knows how to recruit within the state of Ohio and in the region. Matt Rule left Temple for Baylor. Baylor's got a lot of problems related to all
Matt
sorts
Rule
of other
is a perfect guy to go in there and fix that stuff because of the way that he runs his program, right? And the respect that his players give him.
So
period.
You see several high-profile coaches in the American move on to big jobs in the Power 5, top-tier jobs. And now you look at a name like Charlie Strong, who was just at Texas, now leading the Tampa school.
I don't want to talk too much about Charlie Strong and that other school over there. We already started off
threatened or not
talking
by
about
their recruiting.
Not threatened,
any more than normal?
But I think that Scott Frost and his group of coaches in recruiting need to step it up. And this could be this could make them work even harder, and I don't see that a problem. I see that as a good thing. And I think the battles between USF and UCF over everything in football are going to be a little bit more. That's going to make that program. Charlie Strong is going to bring positive, unfortunately, going to bring a lot of positive energy and, some good teams probably, unless he fails like he did at Texas.
We still have to take care of our own business.
And we shall see. But, yes.
Which brings us to bowl week.
Yeah.
And the importance, I think, of getting a win over Arkansas State coming up in the Cure Bowl Saturday, December 17th, over at that stadium in Orlando.
Right. I got one more thing to say on this coaching thing that I meant to throw in there. It's interesting we bring up the name Lane Kiffin because have you heard the situation with him and possibly FAU, which is very odd. Where does FAU, number one, get the money for a guy like Lane Kiffin? And why would Lane Kiffin want the job at FAU?
I don't know why Lane would want that job.
The whole thing is very strange to me.
Well, you see who FIU inked, right? Butch Davis.
Yeah, well...
he's a fall from grace.
Right.
He's a reclamation project.
Right.
He wants to rebuild his resume.
Right.
Lane Kiffin hasn't had the greatest level of success at the head coaching level, but he doesn't bring with it the scandal that Butch Davis did from the academic problems at North Carolina, for example.
But
I think he can do better than that job.
You have to look at what he's done in his career, though. He was at Tennessee and did all right. He was at Oakland, didn't do all right. And then he was at USC and kind of did all right as a head coach. And then went to Alabama and was the offensive coordinator and has done a great job doing that job there. But, do you take a chance on a guy like that as a head coach again? Giving
he's 41 years old.
There's some people that just don't do a very good job at being a head coach, and I don't know what he's making, at Alabama.
$1.4 million.
Well, that's isn't that very close to what Scott Frost is making here?
I believe Frost is making 1.7.
Yeah.
Where does FAU come up with that money in Conference USA?
I don't know. I mean, they're Are they a private school?
No,
or are they?
no,
They're a state public school.
State public
Okay,
school.
well, I mean, they may have big donors or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe
I don't think that's a good job for him, but I think it's a school will take a chance on him to see what he can do. 41, he's young.
I think it'll be interesting if that comes to fruition. Anyway, what else? Bowl week.
Bowl week.
So UCF obviously playing at the Cure Bowl, which we were all excited and wanted that to happen at the Camping World Stadium, which we'll still call the Citrus Bowl. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be awesome down there in the Citrus Bowl. I got my tickets. You have your tickets?
I do not have my tickets yet.
Oh, well, I assume you're getting tickets.
I will
you're
be
going
tickets.
to go.
I will be somewhere.
It's
Yes.
I can't wait. It's going to be
I'm
exciting.
excited about it too. They're going to wear all black uniforms.
That's interesting because I saw that. I guess Arkansas State was the first ones to, kind of give that away on Twitter. But then again, I saw something else that UCF put out that didn't really look like that. So UCF hasn't said anything. I'm surprised. I would be surprised if UCF doesn't have some kind of pink in their uniform.
Because of the Cure. But, Scott Frost alluded to the fact that the expense of added uniforms for one bowl game, that might not be something they do. So maybe it's a patch.
Well, that was asking. That was
sorts.
what he was doing there was asking Phil Knight for some money. For some uniforms is what he was doing. You watch.
Well, it's rumored to be all black.
It's rumored to be those black helmets with nitro on the side and all that. But I don't think so.
Well,
we'll see.
We're going to hear from the Arkansas State head coach in just a second. We're also going to hear from an insider from an Arkansas newspaper to take a look a little bit more at the Red Wolves. The bowl week schedule includes, I like this, both teams arriving on Wednesday. It would be a short trip for UCF. Players get to attend the Magic game against the Clippers. That should be a good one. Thursday, both teams start practice. Friday, more practice. A couple of players from each team are going to be visiting Florida Hospital for a community service event. Then they're going to participate in a team charity event for Feed the Children out at Universal. Then a big pep rally, Battle of the Bands Friday night, beginning from 5 to 6 or through 5 to 6 at Universal City Walk. Saturday, then, game day, the Eli Young Band in concert from 3:30 to 5 next to the stadium. So bowl week begins.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I've also got Scott Frost talking a little bit about the bowl from a press conference that he had maybe a week ago, but some comments that he made, and Troy Walters on the bowl game as well.
I haven't heard from Walters.
Yeah, so let's play that one right now. Let's see what he has to say.
Everyone's excited. It's a tremendous honor and privilege and opportunity to play in a 13th game, and there are a lot of schools around the country that would love to have another game, another 10 to 15 practices, another opportunity to play in front of our home fans and play a good Arkansas State team. And so the young guys are excited. We want to definitely send the seniors out on a high note because they've done a lot for this program. And we want to kickstart, 2017 and make sure that we go into the new year on a high note and with positive momentum. And so we're excited about this game and the opportunity to play in it.
There you go. He's excited. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that everybody's excited about a bowl game. There's nothing like playing for a bowl game when you're a college football player.
You played in a bowl game.
Two
bowl games.
Yes. The Hawaii Bowl, which was the Hula Bowl at the time, or Aloha Bowl or whatever. Hula Bowl, I believe.
What was your gift? Gifts?
We didn't get that much
no
stuff.
Swag?
I mean, it's different now. We got T-shirts and, stuff like that.
What was your playing weight?
215.
What do you weigh now?
Like 185.
So you'd have been swimming in those T-shirts if you still had them.
For sure, yeah, everything.
You ever gone to homecoming or a reunion or anything?
I've gone a couple times when I lived there, but, I don't know. It was a long time ago. A lot of the guys that I know aren't around there anymore, so it is what it is. It was fun to go to Hawaii, obviously. The kids from Arkansas are going to be excited to come to Orlando. The kids from Orlando are going to be excited to go to Orlando. It's all good.
Well, there are a lot of things in the bowl week that the kids from Orlando haven't had an opportunity to do, between Magic games, the theme parks, and those sorts of things.
You know what's interesting about that? Scott Frost said that same thing. Let's hear.
How about that?
I think staying here locally is a great thing to happen to our football team. I think we'll get a lot of support from people in town that'll come to the game. There'll be more UCF fans in Orlando than there would have been somewhere that farther away. Gives us a chance to kind of stay in our routine and stay here at campus right up until a few days before the game. Arkansas State, I think, started off slow. Finished the season really strong. Beat all but one team in their league. You can really see the improvement they made from the beginning of the year till the end. So it's going to be a tough matchup, and we need to be at our best. I think there's neat things about every bowl game I've ever been to, and some of the unique things that you get to do in relation to that bowl game. Some of the things that we do at this game will be new to some of our guys, and I'm sure some of the things we'll do the guys have done since it's here in Orlando. But I guarantee at least half of our team hasn't been down around Universal Studios where we're going to stay. So it'll be a new experience to a lot of them, and also convenient for a lot of our players to get their families in town to see the game.
All right, there you go. Scott Frost mentioned that specifically. So, that's cool. Any of the bowl surrounding activities, have to be fun. It doesn't matter if it's... I think it would be exciting to play a game in a different stadium in your town.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And I think maybe some of these players are excited to play in the Citrus Bowl because of the history that it had with UCF. And I'm excited to see my first UCF game at the Citrus Bowl, or Camping World Stadium, or whatever you want to call it. I'm excited for that because I just think it'll be cool.
Gotcha.
I don't know what else
agree.
to say about it.
I'm looking forward to it. I many years at that stadium watching games, all during my collegiate years. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, let's hear what the Arkansas State head coach had to say about his team coming to Orlando to play.
Blake Anderson.
We've been watching Central Florida on film. I've got pretty good history with them from my time in that league, and they're physical and a good football team, playing better now than they did at the beginning. Great defensive team, and with the player of the year and linebacker, and the tempo style of offense they'll run with Coach Frost will be something we really haven't seen in a while. And we'll be playing in their backyard. As I understand it, ticket sales are already really, really good, so it'll be a home game for them. But we're excited about going. I think if we get good weather, which Terry's going to take care of, that we're going to get great weather while we're there. Should be a blast for the guys and a great game, and honestly a really good contest between two good football teams. It's the last game of the senior's career. They'll remember it for the rest of their lives. I remember mine like it was yesterday.
Does he remind you of anybody else maybe from Arkansas? That voice? That voice it reminds me of somebody.
Not ringing a bell.
I can't. Bill Clinton, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Doesn't he sound like, well, I think that, just sounds just like him.
I'd like him to feel UCF's pain on Saturday.
It's kind of weird that, do all guys from Arkansas sound like that? That's strange.
That's an interesting question. So let's weigh in on this game. What do you think the keys are for UCF to get the win? What's your prediction, and what do you think the crowd is going to be?
Well, you know how my predictions don't usually do very well, and we kind of stopped doing the predictions during the season.
Well, we stopped after the 0-12. We were wrong every week.
Well, I think we did them at the beginning of the season, yeah, and then luckily we stopped. Anyway, I think obviously it's Captain Obvious here. Offense has to perform, number one.
Think a couple of weeks off helps them.
Maybe.
Rest for some weary legs.
Scott Frost said in that press conference as well, part that I didn't play on here, that they went back to basics with these practices, and we're still coaching fundamentals. And I think that's what really needed to be coached up with the offense in general, is fundamentals. How to throw the ball, how to carry the ball, how to block. Simple things like that can help an offense out tremendously. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist saying that, obviously, but that's what needs to be done. Offensive linemen have to block their assignment, and the quarterback has to be able to throw the ball in a spot where the receivers can catch it, period. And we have to be able to run the ball. Run the ball. You have to run the ball on these guys because they're not the greatest at running defense.
So your prediction?
I mean, it's a Sun Belt team. I believe that we win. Right now, it's if you look at the betting, line, we're a 6-point favorite, And I believe that some of that, 3 points of that probably comes that we're an American team and they're a Sun Belt team. And I think 3 points of that comes from basically being a home game. So I think, looking at the statistics from their season to ours, we score a few more points. Believe it or not. I know that that's a little crazy. I think we're going to come out on top. I would like to see, 60-3 or something like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to say we win by a touchdown, and I don't know. I'm not going to predict a score.
What about attendance?
I say somewhere in the 30,000 range. I don't think it's going to be higher than that.
Low 30s?
Low 30s.
Low 30s.
Yeah.
I think our defense is going to be key here, as it has been throughout the season.
Yeah.
No matter what the offense does. I think the quality of opponent differential there, UCF is a stronger opponent than, no disrespect, Arkansas State and the Sun Belt. I think the defense has made big plays all year. This is not a particularly good, well-played offense right now for Arkansas State. They've been hot, 7 of 8, but that's within the Sun Belt Conference. They struggled in their out-of-conference games early on in the year. I think UCF wins 29-14 is my prediction. And then I think last year they announced that Cure Bowl at 18 and change, certainly less than that it looked like when I saw some of that game on TV. I think they about double that, so they're in the 35-36 range. You're going to get your core people out. They've got student ticket sales for cheaper than what you can buy at the box office, but I think they're going to have trouble getting those students out. And a big part of our crowd on game days at Bright House is that student number, and they're not going to have anywhere near that student number. So I think there's a little more interest from the general public. Being back at the Citrus Bowl brings out some folks, and so I put mid-30s, and everybody would probably be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. I don't think that you're going to get much more than that. In fact, I was trying here, as soon as my web browser will load, I wanted to look at the stats that I was talking about there.
Well, while that's happening, I want to give a shout-out.
Go ahead.
Interacting with the alumni chapter in Denver, they're going to be hosting a Cure Bowl watch party at the Blake Street Tavern in downtown Denver in the Ballpark neighborhood. They're going to have drink specials and giveaways. Appreciate Samantha Malone, the chapter chair from the UCF alumni chapter in Denver, Colorado, where my sister lives, though she's not a UCF alum and probably won't participate in that. I would if I were out there, but I'm going to be at the game. So a little shout out to them, and I thank them for sending us the information to mention on Knightline.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for, all you're doing out there for sure in Denver area. So
you got the stats.
ESPN has the matchup predictor thing that they do. UCF 64%, Arkansas State 36%.
Predictions, what people are saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then we're, like I said, the odds -6 for us, so we have a 6-point advantage. But if you look at the quarterbacks, Mackenzie Milton, 172 for 297 of passes and 1,808 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Their quarterback, 185 for 314 and 2,514 yards. 16 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So obviously they have a little bit better quarterback play. They actually do have a little bit better of a running back as well playing. But now Jawan Hamilton
stronger defense.
They just pull up Jawan Hamilton, so they don't show our running back by committee. So they have one running back that ran for almost 1,000 yards. Wand is his name, and then. We have a better receiver in Smith, and their guy is named Mack. So, almost double the yards for Smith versus their top wide receiver. But points per game, we score 30.1, they score 27. Points allowed per game, this is where it gets talking about the defense. 24 for us, 38 for them. So...
yeah, I think our defense is just going to really shut down their offense, and I hope we don't need a lot of scrambling and, too many theatrics from Mackenzie. Just a standard offense, like you're saying, going back to basics and just run a traditional game plan and just do what you need to do on offense. This is critical that they get a win and sail into recruiting season and the off season with a victory, and what a turnaround. I don't want to be talking a week from now about losing to a Sun Belt team in a de facto home game. So
that
I don't really care how
be,
they win the game.
That
Just
would
win
be
the game.
horrible. Yeah, we're coming off of 2 losses, and I think that this is important, carrying momentum into next year.
Agreed.
They're coming off of a win against Texas State and a share of their conference championship. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think both teams want to win it, obviously.
We're going to dig deeper into Arkansas State in just a moment. We're also going to be talking about men's and women's basketball. They keep up their winning ways. Men's soccer has a new head coach.
That basketball team,
they don't ever lose.
Just shocked that they're doing so great. It's awesome.
It is
awesome.
It is indeed awesome. Also, we're going to be joined by reporter Haley Otten of the American Digital Network. She stops by Knightline. But first up, the Red Wolves beat reporter for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Joining us now to talk more about UCF's Cure Bowl opponent, the Arkansas State Red Wolves, is Troy Schulte, who covers the school for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Troy, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing today?
Good. Thank you for joining us. It was a tale of 2 seasons for Arkansas State, an 0-4 start to the year. Then the Red Wolves won 6 straight, 7 of 8 to finish atop the Sun Belt for the 5th time in 6 seasons. Tell us how this season played out.
Well, this is my 4th year covering the team, and this was probably by far the oddest, kind of season in terms of just kind of, they've dealt with a bunch of coaching searches and stuff, but outside of that, just kind of the in-game part of the season is probably the one that kind of included the most twists and turns. They entered the season with a bunch of, they had about half of a new coaching staff. Their whole offensive staff was new. And they were breaking in a bunch of new skill players. They had all their offensive line back and 2 running backs back, but all their receivers and their quarterbacks were new. And it just took them a little while to really get into any type of a rhythm. They lost to Toledo and Auburn and Utah State, and then the big one that really got people restless was losing to Central Arkansas, which is an in-state FCS team, and they ended up having a good year. They went to the second round of the FCS playoffs, but losing, a home game to an in-state FCS team is never really going to be something that fans accept. So, they ended up making a quarterback change in the Utah State game, and that kind of got them a little bit on track, but offensively they never really found a great rhythm, but their defense has been good. They haven't forced as many turnovers as they did last year, but they've been better in just about every other area. It's a very veteran defense, very sound. So, they're able to, kind of win some games backed by their defense while their offense has really kind of gotten into gear, which has at times, has not at times. So that's about where we're at, and that's kind of the team that's probably going to be playing on the 17th. It's a very flawed team, but it's a capable team on offense and a very sound team on defense. So that's basically what they've turned into.
All right, you mentioned it a little while ago. Losing to Auburn is one thing, but losing to Central Arkansas is kind of another. How did that happen?
Well, it was a combination of, I'll start with the quarterbacks. Last year when they went 9-4 and won the Sun Belt and went to the New Orleans Bowl, they had a 2-year starter, a quarterback. His name was Freddie Knighton. He led 2 years, starting there. He was, they set a school record and a conference record for points scored. He was, he's in the top 5 in all the schools, most of the schools' quarterback categories, just had a really good career. They lost him, and they also lost their offensive coordinator, Walt Bell. He went from Arkansas State to Maryland, and not only had he been there for Anderson's 2 years, him and Anderson had known each other. Blake Anderson, the head coach I'm talking about, had known each other all the way back to the Middle Tennessee days. Blake Anderson was his coach at Middle Tennessee, and then, he had him at several stops along the way, along with North Carolina, and he brought Arkansas State. So they're very close, and they're very in sync with the offense. And so Walt Bell goes to Maryland. They lose their quarterback. They lose a bunch of receivers. He brings in Buster Faulkner to be an offensive coordinator from Middle Tennessee, and, it just was a little clunky to start through the first month. They pick one quarterback, Chad Voidick, who's a graduate transfer from Pittsburgh. He didn't get there until June. So you got a quarterback starting who has been on campus for only 3 or 4 months with a new offensive coordinator, and it just did not work very well. And in the middle of the Utah State game, they made a change at quarterback with to Justice Hansen, which you guys will see on the 17th, but he's new too. He was a transfer from a junior college. He started his career at Oklahoma. But he didn't get there till January. So all these new pieces trying to fit together, and that UCA game, they turned it over 4 times. And like I said, UCA was a very sound team. They're a very good team and an experienced team. And it's the type of team that if, you have all those things working against you, like, all these new pieces on offense, if you turn it over 4 times, they turned it over twice in the fourth quarter when they were driving, when they could have, kind of sealed the game. All those things working against you against a team that's very sound and very well coached and experienced and good, that's the type of game that can get you, and it got them. And, Blake Anderson says now that, he didn't like going through that, but he says now that might have been the catalyst for their season, which, it's hard to really judge if that's true or not. But, after that, they won 6 in a row and 7 of 8, and that's where they're at now.
Tell us more about the Red Wolves offense, starting with redshirt sophomore quarterback Justice Hansen, and who will his key targets be at wide receiver?
Yeah, like I mentioned, he's new to the program. He's from Oklahoma. He started at Oklahoma, transferred to a junior college in Kansas just because he probably was never going to get the opportunity there. And then he got to ASU in January. He's a little bit different than Freddie Knight that they had before. He has more of the traditional kind of passer tools, if that makes sense. He's a little bit taller. He's got a bigger arm. He can run a little bit, but he's not. If you see a play breakdown, you see him take off, you can tell it's not his greatest asset. But he can do it. He can kind of, if you need 4 yards, he can get you 5 every once in a while. But, he's got like I said, he's got a big arm. He can throw it downfield a lot more than they have in the past. So that helps. But, accuracy has been a thing for him. He's only 58%, almost 59%. And there are times where just kind of short and intermediate routes, kind of medium-type routes have been an issue for him. And that's just going to take time with his growth, I think. He started last year, but it was at a junior college. It's just a completely different ballgame. So, you've seen him at times be pretty good and pretty dynamic, and you can see, wow, that he's got something here, but you can see times where kind of looks like he's not entirely sure what's going on. So, and that's been the case since September. So, it's a thing where it's probably just going to take probably a spring and an off season to really kind of see huge jumps with him. And then in terms of, his targets, those were a lot of new pieces too. Tight end Blake Mack had a breakout year. He's leading them in yards. And then he'll throw to Kendall Sanders, who came from Texas, and Cameron Eccles-Looper, who was transferred from TCU. And both of those guys kind of came on late more so than they did early. So he's got a few targets to throw to. Warren Wand, a sophomore running back, he's their biggest, kind of threat in the running game. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry. So they've got pieces. It's just like I've been saying. They've been new all year and just trying to really mesh together throughout this season.
Well, the running game was my next question. It's ranked 102nd this season in FBS. Who are the playmakers running the ball, and tell us more about the offensive line?
The offensive line has been one of the biggest. I don't know if I want to label it as a disappointment, but it's been one of the more inconsistent units all year. It came in, every other piece on the offense was new, but except for the offensive line, they're starting 5 seniors, and they've had a couple minor injuries throughout the year, but for the most part, they've started 5 seniors every game. And the fact that running game hasn't been something that they can really lean on has really kind of hampered them offensively. I mean, they're averaging less than 4 yards a carry. I mean, a lot of that has to do with sacks and whatnot, but it just hasn't been as dynamic as it has been in the past. And we've kind of peppered them with questions about that all year and can never really get a clear answer as to why they think that. You would think that an offensive line that was able to do what it did last year would be able to do the same. So I think it's just a kind of combination of, just kind of not really in sync with a new coordinator and a new philosophy. The offense in general isn't all that different. It's just kind of, they have a new offensive line coach and a new running backs coach. Like I said, it's basically an all-new offensive staff. So just trying to gel all season together, I think that's something that has been kind of a trouble for them. So, but Warren Wand had probably his best game of the season the other night at Texas State. He had 130 yards rushing and 60 yards receiving. He had almost 200 yards of total offense. So if that's the type of guy they can get moving forward and on the 17th, then that's a pretty good start for them.
Shifting to defense, the Red Wolves were ranked 42nd overall, pretty consistent on both sides of the ball. Tell us more about the defensive standouts and who could cause the Knights problems.
It's an experienced defense. I guess I don't know offhand in terms of seniors and juniors, but it's pretty much all juniors and seniors. They have a starting nickelback that's a sophomore, but other than that, It's guys that have been around, that have played, that have started. And, at the beginning of the year, Blake Anderson said, we're really going to need this defense to be great to kind of lean on it while this offense comes around. It took them a while. It took them almost to even the Georgia Southern game that really got their kind of winning on track. Numbers-wise, it wasn't great, but since then they've been really good. And, like I said, they haven't had as many turnovers as they forced last year, but just about every other area is improved. And, I think it starts a lot with its front four. It's guys up front. Waylon Robertson, he's a big tackle that isn't going to have a lot of numbers, but coaches mention him every week, either ASU coaches or opponent coaches, in terms of just kind of disrupting things. And they've got two ends that have really broken out. Chris Odom, who might end up being the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year, he had 12.5 sacks, and the guy on the other side, Javon Rowland-Jones, had 11.5. And the thing with him was Javon Rowland-Jones has always been a great pass rusher. He's a junior. It's his third year. He's always been great in that area. But he's had trouble staying on the field because, he wasn't all that great or as good, doing as well as the coaches wanted him to do in, kind of stopping the run and some of the other stuff. Well, he's doing that now, so he's on the field all the time, and he's able to kind of make some of those tackles for loss and sacks that he's really good at. So that front four is really getting after it, and that just helps everything in the back. They've got two experienced linebackers and experienced safeties, and they're really playing well right now.
Talk to us about the job that head coach Blake Anderson has done as he hopes to guide the Red Wolves to their first bowl win during his tenure.
The bowl wins is something that, he's talked about here in the last couple days since it's been clear where they're going, that it seems pretty important to him, because like you said, that first year they lost to Toledo. Last year they lost to Louisiana Tech and New Orleans, and neither of them were really all that close. And so I think that's important to him just in general, just to kind of get that bowl win off his back and just kind of have something that he can point to because, if you look at it, ASU has been successful. 6 years in a row, they've been to bowl games, 5 of the last 6 Sun Belt titles. He's 23-15 in 3 years as a coach. But if you kind of split it up, they have not been very successful outside of the conference. He is 1-11 against out-of-conference FBS schools since he's been there. That only win was an overtime win against Utah State at home his first year. Beyond that, it's he's lost 3 times to Toledo. They've lost to Tennessee and Miami and Auburn and, Louisiana Tech last year. UCA, like we talked about before, they just have not been able to translate this to outside the conference. So I think that's big. This game is big in that area for them. A lot of times it comes down to, bowl games come down to motivation. So I think that will at least give the staff quite a bit of motivation just to prove that they can do it. They're kind of in that period where they're known as a great Sun Belt program, but it's time for them to really kind of make that next jump and show that they can compete outside the Sun Belt, and this is a good opportunity for them to do that.
What reaction are you hearing from the Red Wolves fans about a trip to Orlando for the Cure Bowl?
It's a little half and half. People are excited to go to Orlando because it's a city they've never been to. I don't think ASU's played there since the 50s. So current fans, they've never been there. They've never been to the game, to this bowl game. But it's a flight. It's just a little bit further of a drive. And it's a little bit different than the other bowls they've been to, which were in Mobile for 4 years, which was a drive from either Jonesboro or Little Rock or wherever, or New Orleans, which is also a drive. So that's kind of the disappointment thing that they've said. It's a flight. It's a little bit more of a commitment, but I think the people that are able to make the trip are pretty excited about it.
I would be excited about it if I wasn't from this area. Do your fans travel?
I'm going, and I'm excited about it. I've never been there.
Do your fans travel well normally?
The bowl games they have been recently. It's hard to gauge, just kind of a number because they never really have a hard one. But they had really good showings in Mobile, and last year in New Orleans it was pretty good. But it'll be interesting to see because, like I said, it's either a 12-hour drive or it's a flight. So either it's a little bit more of a time and a money commitment. So I think I talked to this about their athletic director about this the other day. I don't think I put it in my story, but just it's almost a challenge with the fan base just to see where their kind of level of commitment is. If they can get fans to this, then that's a pretty good showing in terms of kind of where they think the program is and where they feel how they feel about the program currently.
Thank you very much, man, for giving us a little insight into Arkansas State, and we look forward to having a good game and a great bowl week and all that stuff down here in Orlando.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'll see you down there.
Solid intel right there. Now, don't forget, we're reacting to news throughout the week now, too. It's called Knightline Now. You can subscribe on our YouTube channel for all of the latest. That is called Knightline Now, in between the podcast. Also, not too late. We're just a couple of weeks away. What do you keep calling it? The Spectacular.
Yeah.
Is that the end of season?
End of season.
Our kickoff, January 8th, YouTube special, where we recap the year and talk about all of those things. And then we're going to give away the paddle boat tour for 2.
Yeah, paddleboard tour. The East Coast Paddle out of New Smyrna Beach is giving away a boat-assisted paddleboard eco tour for 2. It's $110 value as part of its support of Knightline Podcast. Please enter to win. Just go to our website, www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com, and click the contest entry form on the left side of the page. And here's Tim to tell us all about it.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Tim Baker with East Coast Paddle, owner, operator, and fellow UCF alum. East Coast Paddle is located in Orlando's favorite beach town of New Smyrna Beach. East Coast Paddle is rated by TripAdvisor as the #1 rated water tour activity in New Smyrna. We are most known for our boat-assisted paddleboard eco tours. This is a 2-hour dock-to-dock experience like none other on the island. You'll paddle with manatees, dolphins, and have a chance to see many of the 4,000 species that inhabit our lagoon system. So take professional pictures throughout the tour that are sent directly to your email at no additional charge. This is not all we have to offer. Traditional paddleboard rentals delivered to your location, paddle fit classes, and several fishing options. Please reach out to us at 386-402-8585 or visit us at our website, eastcoastpaddle.com, or follow us on Facebook at East Coast Paddle or Instagram at EastCPSUP.
All right, good luck, everyone. How about UCF men's basketball as well? The men improved to 7-1, 76-58 win over Maryland Eastern Shore Saturday night at the CFE Arena. Senior Matt Williams had the game-high 23 and recorded his first career double-double, also finished with the 10 rebounds. UCF boasts the nation's second-best scoring defense, held Maryland Eastern Shore to just 28.4% from the floor. And all of this, though, happening without redshirt sophomore point guard B.J. Taylor. He's going to miss the next couple of weeks with a hand injury as the non-conference schedule winds down and conference play begins. Not having him out there already in a year in which depth is challenged is going to be a challenge for them. They got some easier games at home, tougher game on the road, but unbelievable. Only loss again, #1, Villanova.
You know, I'm not so sure that it is going to be a big challenge, to be honest with you. I thought that it was going to be a huge deal. I thought there was no way we would win this game the other night. I thought that there was absolutely no way.
But they're no good.
And I know that. I understand that. But still, the guys that stepped up, AJ really, really stepped up.
9 assists.
So, you know.
It's good to have him back.
I cannot believe what this team is doing this year. Because from what we've gone through the last couple of years with some of these same players, to see what they've done is absolutely amazing. And I give full and total credit to the players and Coach Johnny Dawkins. I mean, Johnny Dawkins is a UCF god at this point because he has done incredible work with these guys.
Taco Fall has really stepped up his game.
Absolutely.
And but is just a much better all-round player.
And then if you look at some of the players that aren't able to play this year because they're sitting out over their transfers, there's some good players there. This is here to stay. I'm telling you.
You got to get out there.
I'm telling you. I know. I haven't had a chance. My work schedule is really hard to get out there except for these Saturday games. You know, I have some audio real quick from Johnny Dawkins that I want to play.
I think it was a really good win for us. I mean, you're talking about a team that I've watched play, Wichita State. I watched them play Virginia Tech. I watched them play a number of teams in preparation. And the one thing that I saw in Maryland Eastern Shore was a team that was going to compete for 40 minutes. And us having to make some adjustments, based on, BJ and Nat being out, on the floor for us, it was going to make for a game where we really had to work together and come together to be successful. So I'm really proud of our guys against a team that I thought was very scrappy. They played unorthodox, and I thought our guys responded well. I thought they were a little more aggressive than they usually are because we didn't have a true point guard. I thought they really tried to trap more and then try to speed us up, something that they didn't typically do. But they will come down the court and press and try to take time off the clock and so forth. But they really trapped us a number of times. I thought it was good for our guys to see that. I mean, AJ, I think he had 6 turnovers, but I look at it this way. AJ missed 5 games to start the season and missed a number of practices. So he's, right now he's still trying to, find his rhythm, get his timing. It's going to be a process for him. At one of the timeouts, I actually stopped him and said that to him. I said, look, where you are right now is where every player that's been injured has ever been, and that's, you're trying to come back, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to, find your rhythm. No worries, we realize that, so don't put the weight of the world on yourself because we know you want to do well. Just slow down and keep it simple, and it's all going to fall in place for you. And it will, because he's too talented and he can really help this team.
I'm telling you, I like this guy. I like him. I like what he has to say, especially that about, telling a player that is excited and everything, just slow down. We know that you're not, going to be 100%. You're not going to be a superstar out there for us, but just slow down, relax, and just play the game. That's extremely important in situations like that.
He is certainly getting the most
out
of these players.
We are going to have much more basketball to talk about once this bowl game is over, so we will dig deep into this stuff and figure out what's going on, and hopefully I can get out there and talk to him. I want to talk to Johnny Dawkins a little bit, and it's exciting. It's amazing to have a basketball team around that's doing good.
That is exciting and winning. Women's basketball keeps rolling as well. 66-52 over Gardner-Webb Saturday. The Knights are now 8-2, Andrew. But get this, they finished 7-23 last season. So on December 10th, the Knights have already surpassed last year's win total. Conference play hasn't even started yet.
Danny White may be the god because, look at what he's done with these coaches that he's hired that have turned these teams around.
And hired a new one this week. Men's soccer has a new head coach. Scott Calabrese is now in charge of UCF men's soccer. He comes to the Knights after 3 seasons at our neighbors over in Miami, FIU, where he led the Panthers to the 2015 Conference USA Championship. Overall, Calabrese is 85-67-20 over 10 seasons of coaching.
Do we know if he's any relation to football Calabrese that was here for a long time?
I'm not aware of that.
If Jason was here, he could maybe answer that. Finals.
I need to use that excuse at some point. Just ahead, she is a familiar face for the fans of the American. Haley Otten stops by Knightline. That is next.
There are so many ways to connect with Knightline. You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast or follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline. Check out our website at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more. Or, of course, you can always call us at 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184. Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or tune in. Go Knights and charge on!
Anyone who has watched the American Athletic Conference's digital network or follows the American on its social media channels will recognize our next guest, Haley Otten, the Assistant Director of Digital Media for the American. Haley, how are you doing, and thanks for joining us on Knightline.
I'm doing great, just recovering from a great championship game this past weekend and getting ready for bowl games, as I'm sure you guys are.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to the Cure Bowl here in Orlando. You're used to being the interviewer. How often are you the subject of interviews?
Not too often, so a little bit uncomfortable being on this side of it, so I don't know how all my interview subjects do it.
All right, well, we're happy to have
don't
you.
Don't hit me with anything too hard.
All right. Tell us a little bit more about what you do. We see you reporting from Tulsa to Greenville. What are you reporting on and where?
Pretty much summed it up right there, hence the American. We're all across the country, so it really just depends on the season. I try to, hit a few campuses each season. So for football, basketball, and baseball, and then Olympic sports, other Olympic sports, I should say, in between. So every few weekends I find myself on the road, but pretty lucky opportunity, I would say, because we have some great cities in this conference. And usually when I'm stopping by to check out sporting events, I manage to have a little bit of fun too and check out the surrounding cities and try some good restaurants. So all over the country, really, and it's been really fun.
So do you get to choose your interviews that you do, or is it part of a team thing? How does it work?
Yeah, kind of interesting, actually. So when I came on board here almost 3 years ago now, we didn't really have a huge staff here, and we still really don't, but the digital aspect of the conference office has really grown a lot throughout my time. So it started as kind of a one-person thing, and now we have about 3 or 4 people. But we work together as a team here to kind of come up with our top storylines every week. And probably the biggest challenge is covering everybody and not missing anything, just because we're isolated a little bit up here in Providence, Rhode Island. But we have 12 great campuses and so many sports within each campus. So trying to stay on top of it and make sure that we're not missing any of the big storylines. But depending on the season, certain sports definitely stick out for certain schools. So trying to make sure we capitalize on those. And then sometimes the stories that surprise us. So, if we ever hear of a human interest story or there's a really big game coming up, I'll see if it kind of fits in my travel schedule to hit some of those things. But definitely a collaborative effort. And, we have a few people here in our office that work very closely with the sport contacts on each campus. So working with them to really not miss anything or try to eliminate missing as much as we can.
Well, you mentioned social media, and things have really taken off. They weren't really like that a few years ago. Talk about how you've seen new media grow and help the American raise its national profile.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. And, our conference, we're lucky to have a really great TV package for football and basketball, so a lot of fans can watch those games on their televisions. But outside of that, and for a lot of our other sports and just general coverage, we're not a conference. We don't have our own television network. So that's why the digital network has been really useful for fans that want to follow sports throughout the conference. So, just in the past few years, our live coverage, I think, has been what's grown the most and where we distribute that live coverage to. So, we started, I think my first year, we streamed live majority of our conference championships and then about 25 women's basketball games just to our website. But now we not only do that, but we also stream, I wish I had exact numbers right now, but probably about 20 Olympic sports games, for soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball, et cetera, throughout the year. And those are now streaming to a multitude of platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, and Snappy TV. So we're able to stream digitally and live on a variety of platforms, so giving fans many places to watch. And I think probably the neatest advancement, I would say, is streaming to Facebook Live. Most of our fans follow us on Facebook. I think we have about over 60,000 followers on Facebook. So generally, when we go live on Facebook, we get a pretty good reaction from our fans.
The American commissioner, Mike Oresco, has been touting the American as part of a Power Six conference. What do you think about the quality of play of football this season?
Well, I think it speaks for itself. And I think that something in this conference that's been really fun to watch is the success that not just one team has had, but many teams have had throughout the year. And it's not one team that's sweeping all of the attention or, blowing everybody out. It's many teams beating good teams outside of the conference, and then you get into conference play and you expect, I think some people expect, a team like Houston's probably the best example from this year, but beating Louisville and Oklahoma, and they think that they're going to get into this conference and run the table, and that's just not the case as we saw this year. Everybody, pretty much from top to bottom, I think it's clear that everyone has shown improvement and that anybody can pretty much win on any given night. So I think it's just sort of spoken for itself that this conference, without question, it's a challenging schedule every single weekend, and there's really no easy games. So, they've proven all 12 teams that they can compete with just about anybody, and I think it spoke, and I think we saw it this year.
So, what will your role be as 7 American schools are going bowling?
You know what? My role during this, if I'm being completely honest with you, is going to be to head home for the holidays and watch them on TV and actually get to enjoy some football from home in Southern California. That being said, though, the work never stops. We actually will still be doing highlights for every single game, and we're able to do that mobily now, which is really great. So while I will be home with mom and dad on the comfort of my couch, we will still be producing highlights so that fans can get those after the games. But I will be happy to take a little bit of a break from the travel and get ready for basketball season.
Yeah, that's understandable. Everybody deserves a break, and the holidays are the best time to do it. But we're a little upset you're not coming to Orlando, though, for the Cure Bowl.
I know, and trust me, the weather is great, but I will argue this is the one time of year where weather in where I'm from is probably equal there in Southern California. So, but I will be out at UCF, I'm sure, again this year before it's all over.
So tell us a little bit more about that. You're working on the East Coast in Providence, Rhode Island, but you're from where at in Southern California?
Yep, so just outside Los Angeles, Redondo Beach. Lived there my whole life and have been a little bit of a nomad since college. Went to East Carolina and played soccer there, and then spent some time in Tennessee working for the Cubs AA affiliate, and then ended up in Providence. So just making my stop region by region. Haven't landed in Florida just yet, but pretty much reached every other region so far.
UCF fans have gone on road trips and have seen a lot of variety in the opposing team's fan bases. Where are your favorite places to report from?
Well, all bias aside and taking my alma mater out of the equation, I think Greenville has some pretty diehard fans. I know that's not an easy place to play. But, it's really been impressive traveling, to schools across the conference in terms of just, some of the facilities now that schools have just spent a lot of time improving on, just some really fun cities. But I would say some of my favorite places to go, I personally always enjoy heading down to Florida. I think the weather, you can't argue with it. It's awesome, and there's a lot of activities and fun things to do in both Orlando and Tampa. But I think some really neat places that maybe don't get talked about quite as much, I would say is, a school like Tulane. I think they have some really neat little facilities on campus there, and then just spending time in New Orleans is always fun. Houston's great. There's so many great cities that have just fantastic food. And I love trying new restaurants and doing that sort of thing. So obviously Memphis and Philadelphia have some excellent food choices and some excellent things to do. But I have to be honest, and I'm not just saying it, but every city that I go to and that I travel to, I think everyone on our campuses are extremely welcoming, and they always give me some really good recommendations. So I really enjoy heading to all 12, and UConn here just down the road. A lot of people, they see Hartford, for UConn football and a lot of the UConn basketball games. But what's really neat about UConn, I think, is Storrs, about 30 minutes outside of Hartford, and just a really cute, eclectic college town with a really great spot for ice cream if you're ever there. So.
Awesome. Good to know. Stuff like that is important. Maybe you should do a little segment about each city and where fans can go if they're traveling. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I am going to put you on a little bit of a hot seat here, and I'm going to ask you what you think UCF chances are against the Sun Belt Conference's Arkansas State Red Wolves in the Cure Bowl.
You know what? I have been so impressed by UCF this season. I think just everything from the new coaching staff to the players, I think it's been really fun watching their improvement coming off of a winless season, which I know was heartbreaking for UCF football fans last year and for the players. That could always be, it is without question a little bit defeating. But the way they've bounced back this year, the way they've bought into Scott Frost, I picked the Knights. I think they're going to do it, and you've seen them grow all year long. And Scott Frost is very impressive, and I think that UCF landed a pretty good coach in him. So I imagine he has a pretty good game plan heading into this bowl game, and I'm sure that the guys on this team are very excited to be back in a bowl game. So I think UCF does it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. One more question, and this stuff has just kind of come up in the last couple of days, but I wanted to ask you about it. There's a lot of coaching changes in the American and all over college football, of course, because it's the season to do that. What do you think of all these American coaches being tapped for other conferences to lead those programs?
I think it's just a testament to the success this conference has seen the past few seasons. It's obviously a very attractive conference for coaches to come into. You get good recruits. You're in great cities. You're playing excellent competition. So I think it just speaks to the level that this conference is at, and that people have seen the success that coaches have achieved playing in this conference. And so it's always sad to see people go, but also exciting to see coaches take another step in their career. And it's always kind of a difficult transition this time of year, and it happens every single year. So, but I think that this conference, because we've lost some excellent coaches, but I think that's going to attract the next group of great coaches to enter this conference. I'm very excited to see the new guys we have on board next year.
One last question. How can fans follow you on social media and the American?
We'll start with the American because that's definitely the spot to go. But the American, our YouTube channel and Facebook, you can find us both on there. Every single video we put out usually ends up on both of those platforms, so it's a great spot to find recaps, features, highlights, pretty much anything video related that you're looking for. We have videos going up on both of those platforms every day. And then on Twitter, @American_comp is a good place to go for everything conference related. And the neat thing, I think we have about over 20 Twitter handles actually at the American. So everything you can find on Twitter is always American_, and then pretty much the sport you're looking for. So FB for football, MBB for basketball, etc. And then also on our website at theamerican.org. But we do our best to get everything out in a variety of places so that hopefully people can't miss it and that they can easily find what they're looking for. And then as for myself, I'm pretty simple. You can find me on Twitter at Haley Outen, much easier said, I guess, than spelled. So, but you can find me on Twitter there as well as on Facebook at Haley Outen ADN. So that's kind of where I'm at, but our Twitter, my stuff is very intertwined with the American handles as well. So
awesome. All right. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And to give, our fans a little bit more of a view of what you do, we really appreciate it.
Well, I hope to make it down to Orlando this year, and I'm excited to see what you guys do in the bowl game this December, so it should be good. Thank you.
Now, back to Knightline with Andrew and Trace.
Couple of good interviews this week. I was glad that you were able to grab those. It's hard for us to juggle our work schedules to sync up, but
yeah, they were kind of early morning interviews, so that's my early morning voice that you've heard there a couple
Your
times.
Early morning voice. Wrapping up the American coming out of Haley there, Army versus Navy. Cadets celebrated their first win in 14 years, beating the Midship in 21-17. As we've mentioned with UCF Bowl Week, the American kicks off its bowl week as well. Houston versus San Diego State in the Las Vegas Bowl should be entertaining. I don't know how much, if any of us are really going to see of it. Saturday, December 17th at 3:30 start. So good luck to our American brethren. Would like to see them put forth a good bowl season.
The only way I'm going to see that is if somebody at the tailgating out there at the bowl game has a TV. So I'll be looking on my phone, I'm sure. But good luck to Houston.
Yeah, I don't mind if they win their bowl game.
I'd like the American teams to do a good job.
Except one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except one. We want your opinion. We've got a listener survey on our website and social media. We want to know what you like, what you think we need to improve upon. We get feedback from folks all throughout the week. On the positive side, one listener wrote that they like the insight and when there are different guests. So 2 in this show. So we hope that listener enjoyed that. I had to laugh. I love the critiques. This one about former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel. Kyle, if you're listening, we hope you are. Here is what one listener had to say. I get it. He's a quarterback, but he's awfully opinionated and sounds more like a fan who barely knows football at times. Take that, Kyle.
I know that we're asking for these comments, and I know that some people are going to, maybe give us stuff that we don't want to hear. And this one it's interesting, though, because number one, Kyle is a former UCF quarterback, and I think that gives him a little bit more credibility. But plus, we're hiring him to analyze the game. That's what his job is on here, to analyze the game. So thank you for your feedback, but come on.
Come on, man. Taking a look at your Knightline planner, men's basketball with a home game. I'll be out there Monday, December 12th against Penn. First tip, 7 o'clock at CFE Arena. Then the men hit the road. This is going to be a challenging game at George Washington, December 15th at 7 o'clock.
Big time.
Yeah, women's basketball hits the road, too. They're at Georgia Southern on December 17th at 2 o'clock. Men return home, Miami of Ohio, Sunday, December 18th, high noon at CFE Arena.
The game against George Washington, that's going to be a challenge, but it cannot be any more of a challenge than that game against Villanova was.
True.
So it's good to get a team like that out of, the way early on in the season so you know what it's like to play teams like that. I don't think George Washington is going to be much better than they are.
There you go. Knights in the NFL. Quarterback Blake Bortles throws for 257 yards and a touchdown, but Jacksonville loses again, 25-16 against the Vikings. Jacksonville now 2-11. And running back Latavius Murray rushed for 103 yards, scored a touchdown, but it was not good enough as Oakland lost to who? Who did they lose?
Kansas City.
Your Kansas City Chiefs. That was a very big game on Thursday night.
One Twitter person called me out because I said go Chiefs, but they didn't look at my tweet before that where I said about Latavius Murray, hashtag built by UCF. So I apologize to that Oakland Raider fan.
You can hope he does well, but that Oakland doesn't
Absolutely.
win the game.
Of course, it's very hard for me to watch a game like that. It was the same thing when Blake, went to Kansas City and played against the Chiefs. I was rooting for Blake, but then I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm just a diehard Chiefs fan, always will be. So nothing personal, Twitter followers. All right, news and notes, I think. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Volleyball senior Jayla Hervey named American Volleyball Coaches Association First Team All-Region. That's awesome.
Yeah, congratulations to her. Women's golf welcomes a transfer from the University of Kentucky. Redshirt sophomore Anna Hack joins the Knights in time for the second half of the 2016-17 season.
And your UCF Knights hockey team, yes, hockey team, hits the ice for a game with the University of Florida at Orlando's Amway Arena following the January 29th Orlando Solar Bears game. The Knights and Gators compete in Division III of the American Collegiate Hockey Association. As club teams, UCF has made 9 consecutive appearances in the national tournaments, which includes 2 third-place finishes.
I would like to go to that, but we record on Sundays. A little bit challenging.
Yeah, maybe we'll figure it out. But that's cool. There's hockey, there's rugby, there's all kinds of stuff that is not, officially sanctioned by Division I, but that's cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we have collegiate hockey in Florida.
Next year that game is, and we got one more game left for football in 2016 and one more episode of Knightline. Let's hope that we're recapping a big Cure Bowl win a week from now.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to recap anything else. So hopefully it turns out that way and we can talk about all the bowl festivities. This has been episode 92 of the UCF Knightline podcast. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, let's go Knights! UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black